Mr. Mayor, we're now live. Hand over to you.
Thank you, Brittany. I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Approval of the agenda. Any add-ons to the agenda here tonight? Howard?
Thank you, Mayor Burley. I'd like to give council an update with the committee for a recap on meeting you can vote.
Do that under new business or? Any other add-ons to the agenda? Councilor Bartlett?
I would just like to add on new business item, new employees.
Okay. Is there any other add-ons to the agenda here tonight? Seeing none? That the agenda be approved as presented. Councilor Colbert, you have an add-on?
I don't. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. I'm having a lot of difficulty hearing you folks speaking there in the chambers.
Okay, we'll see what, can you hear me, Captain?
I would echo that sentiment.
Same here as well.
Sorry, just so I can have consensus of our virtual members, all three of you are having difficulties hearing us? Even myself right now?
No, I can hear you really well. I could barely hear Tyler, and I could hear the mayor a little bit better, but not much.
So, everyone in this chambers needs to speak loudly into their microphones. If you need to remove your mask, then please do so. Can we all try? Councilor Carol Barfoot.
Oh, under new business, I would like an addition there, staff employees. Is that better, Ryan?
Was that better? Mr. Mayor.
Can you hear me as I speak now? Okay, good.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, thumbs up. Tyler.
Testing.
Okay, thumbs up. Cassie. Then, oh. Good afternoon, everyone. We recognize that was a little bit spotty, so we'll work on Cassie's. So, are the sound levels better now? Before we continue. Okay, so everyone please just speak directly into your microphone and enunciate. Thank you.
Okay, I'll carry on to this meeting. I was asking for someone to move the motion on the floor for accepting the minutes. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Councilor Pringle. If there's no other discussion, all in favor? It is carried. Moving on for agenda, declaration of interest, we declare any time you see fit during the meeting. Public hearings, we have none. We're down to presentations, and I welcome Peter Rottenberg. Go ahead, Brittany.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before we turn it over to Peter, I just wanted council to please amend the agenda to consider report 8.1 with Peter's presentation. So that report is LEG 2020-18, approval of purchase of building permit software. So if I could just have a mover and a seconder to amend the agenda to consider that report at this time.
Moved by Councilor Barfoot, second by Councilor Colbert. All in favor? It is carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brittany. Please remind me. Now, welcome, Peter.
Hi, everyone. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful, great.
So, Mr. Mayor and members of council, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to present today. I think in the building department's report to council, they did a really great job kind of laying out, the strategic priorities and, what the benefits of our cloud permit software will be to the city. What I was hoping to do today was give you just a brief overview of our company, share some stories about some work we're doing in municipalities similar to Georgian Bluffs, and then give you just a brief overview of a couple kind of key points of the software so you can get a good sense of the look and feel for how it works. With that said, I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen here. I've just got a couple slides to show you to set the table. I'll make sure that there's plenty of opportunity for questions. Please feel free to cut me off and jump in if there's anything specific you guys would like to ask me about. Then I'll jump into the software. So is everyone able to see my screen there? Yeah, great. So just by way of introduction, Cloud Permit, we were originally founded in Europe back in 2011. We grew very quickly there and got to a point around late 2017, early 2018, where we were looking for some expansion opportunities in the North American market to build off our success back in Europe. Through some kind of chance encounters with some industry groups, namely the Ontario Building Officials Association, we were invited to Canada to give some presentations. One thing kind of led to another there, and we were able to sign up the City of Windsor, Ontario as our first client. And that was back in June of 2018. That project really served as sort of a springboard for us to develop a product for small and mid-sized municipalities across the province, which was always our goal. So since then and to today, we're at about 34 municipalities across the province that are currently using the cloud permit system to manage their entire building permitting process from end to end. And recently, just this past September, we signed a partnership agreement with the Ontario Building Officials Association, which I believe most of the members of the building department in Georgian Bluffs are part of. And that partnership was really in recognition of the work, the great work that we've been able to do with municipalities across the province in, helping them modernize their workflows and really help them deliver digital services to the public. Just a bit about what we do. Obviously, we build building permitting software, but I do want to paint a quick picture for everybody just to create a common understanding. What's been traditionally available to small and mid-sized cities in terms of building software has generally been augmented kind of financial software that allows for basic data entry, permit tracking, and it gives the building officials sort of, the basic tools that they need. But as the building department laid out in their report to council, the system really lacks any forward or public-facing features. We typically refer to this as a front end or a front office, something that really allows the public to, engage in the process and receive more accessible and more convenient services. So traditionally, big cities have been able to buy, pretty expensive and customizable software platforms to get to this, but there's really been nothing on the market for, small and mid-sized cities. So Cloud Permit, what we're really about is building software specifically for regional markets. So the product that I'm going to talk about and show you guys today is built specifically for building departments in Ontario. And with that super regional focus, it allows us to develop software that's highly functional, but is cost effective for governments of any size. So across our client base today, and I'm going to skip forward a slide here, and you can kind of see on this slide sort of where our clients are located across the province. Georgian Bluffs really looks like a bread and butter cloud permit client in terms of the number of permits they issue, the population, and the number of staff they have in the building department. Just as a quick aside, we do have a fair amount of experience in Grey County. Grey Highlands was the second client we ever signed up after Windsor, and they've been a really phenomenal partner to us throughout this process. They played a big role in helping us develop different elements of the software that you're going to see today. So just at a high level, our software really does everything that both an applicant, so someone applying for a building department, and a municipal building official are going to need to do from the very inception of a permit application through the review and permit issuance period, We manage the inspection process, and then the post-inspection activities, project closeout, reporting to MPAC so that, you know, property tax money can start to come in. Our software is really end-to-end and fully encompassing in that sense. Benefits of our software. One of the advantages we have as a cloud-based system is everyone uses our software in a very similar way, and we're able to, you know, get a lot of data about you know, how our software is used and the benefits it has. Typically, you know, a lot of software companies are going to focus on how the software benefits you guys specifically. We like to take that a step further and really look at how this is going to benefit your clients first. So what we see once we bring our software into a municipality, typically very quickly what we see is an 80% decrease in front counter visits because applicants are able to basically get all the services they need from, you know, the comfort of home or wherever their working space might be. Before COVID, this was, you know, a huge advantage. And I think with the reality that COVID's presented, this is, you know, especially important thing to consider. And certainly our clients over the past few months have had a much easier time acclimating to this, you know, this new normal that we're all dealing with than some other municipalities that have had to kind of cobble together different processes to, you know, continue to do business while they can't really interact with their customers face to face. What we also find is builders who are using Cloud Permit are saving enormous amounts of time and money on travel. The average building permit requires, you know, about 3 to 4 trips for a builder in and out of the department. We've been able to pull some data together and find that the average builder's round trip to get a building department is 75 kilometers. So, you know, multiply that times 4 and you start to, you know, get this sense that you're providing them a huge advantage and you're making yourselves a much easier place to do business. For municipalities, what we see really, really quickly once our software is implemented is they're able to issue permits a lot faster. And really the core reason behind this is, you know, there's 2 areas where municipal building departments tend to lose efficiencies and have some challenges with customer service. The first one is the application intake process. When I first sat down with Tim and his team, he estimated that between 70 and 80% of the applications that he receives when they first hit his front desk are incomplete and require some additional work and back and forth with the client before the department can really actually accept those and go to work approving them. So this is the first thing that we're really aiming to solve. And I'm going to show you guys in just a moment how we go about doing that. And by easing that application process, we're giving the building departments a lot more time to spend on application review, permit issuance, building inspections, things that are frankly more important to the process. What we also see is about 80% of the applications come in through the online side of our software after 3 months. You never really get to 100%. There's always going to be builders who, you know, don't have a computer or for whatever reason. You know, I'll just give you guys a quick story. In Grey County, where there's a fairly large Mennonite population, they have some families that continue to submit via paper. And that's just fine. Our system manages that as well. But some of these folks have, you know, started to get acclimated to our system. And just to tell a quick story to maybe flesh this out a little bit better, there was a Mennonite family in Grey Highlands whose barn burnt down on a Saturday. They were able to use the online software to get their whole permit application set up and submitted on the Sunday. Monday morning, first thing, Debbie Anderson, the CBO of Grey Highlands, and her team picked that permit up, got everything, issued the permit, and by Tuesday morning, that family was building their new barn. So I tell that story to, again, just to kind of flesh out some of these points and you know, bring across the idea that, you know, this is going to benefit both, you know, your team, your staff enormously as well as the applicants. I don't want to show you guys and bore you guys with too many more slides, but at this point, I did want to just do a quick pause and check to see if there's any questions.
Thank you, Peter. Does council have any questions for Peter? Now, Deputy Mayor Croson, I cannot see you, so I don't know if you have a question or not.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to just continue on and give you guys a quick demonstration of a couple key points in the software. Our software does a lot of things, so I'm not going to have time today to go over every detail. So what I've elected to do today is kind of show everybody 2 really key parts of the process. First being the application intake process, and the second being the building inspection process and how we manage those different processes in our system. So welcome to Cloud Permit. This is our system. We can put a link to this on the Georgian Bluffs Building Services webpage. We're also able to superimpose our login screen there. So applicants, when they come online to your website, will be able to go right into the software and get to work. By the way, just for members of council, the system meets all the provincial AODA requirements for accessibility of use. So I know that's important, you know, with everything, you know, a municipality does, and I just wanted to provide assurances that our software meets those requirements as well. Once an applicant has created a user account in our system, which is done very, very easily just by adding an email address and validating that, they're going to be able to log in and they will land on our dashboard page. On our dashboard page, an applicant's going to be able to see any tasks or requests that they have from the building department. A couple quick examples of this would be the resubmission of a marked up drawing for, you know, something like an architectural diagram where the building department's required some changes. Or another kind of classic example would be, you know, just making a payment, making an additional payment. An applicant is also going to be able to go down and see all the different projects that they're working on with Georgian Bluffs. The way our software is also designed is an applicant from a single user account can manage their projects with any other municipality that's using Cloud Permit. So in Grey County, for example, where we have builders, where we have Chatsworth, West Grey, and Grey Highlands on board on our software, presumably there's going to be some builders in the area who build, you know, across those three municipalities as well as Georgian Bluffs. This will be their workspace to manage permits with all of them. Let's kind of go into the situation of just a brand new builder, someone who's applying for the first time. So the first thing they're going to do once they've created their account is click this big apply for a permit button. They'll be able to name and create their new projects. I'll call this council demo. The next thing they're going to do is they're going to be taken to a map. And this map is actually leveraging, you know, tools that are already in place in Georgian Bluffs, namely your GIS system. This is the same GIS system that's administered by the county and that we're using in the other three Grey County municipalities that are currently clients of ours. Behind this GIS system is a ton of useful data that's going to make the applicant's application process easier. And it's also going to make the review and approval process easier for the building department, since a lot of the data that they need to review is just going to pop into the forms and the data fields that they want to look at. So very easily, an applicant's going to be able to type in their address into a Google-style search up here, or they can just scroll in and pick their, you know, parcel off the map here. And as you can see, we're automatically pulling in correct information about their property, not just their address, but roll numbers, property identifiers, et cetera, et cetera. Once an applicant's told us where they want to build, an applicant's going to tell us what they want to build. And in this case, I'll just use a residential permit since that's kind of bread and butter. And just like any online transaction, an applicant's going to be asked to confirm their details before they check out, right? So no different than if you're, you know, buying something on Amazon or anything like that. And at this stage, what we're really trying to do is kind of get an understanding of what they're trying to build. And then in the back end of this, we've built a configuration with requirements for what different application requirements there are for different types of permits. A building permit's really 4 buckets of information. There's fees that need to be paid, there's forms that need to be filled out, there's drawings that need to be submitted, and there's different parties that need to be associated with the application, so a homeowner or a contractor or a designer. So what we're really trying to do at this stage is basically understand what they're trying to build so we can really clearly lay out all their requirements in each of those 4 buckets. And I think if you talk to builders today, what they typically, and what they tell us, and we interview a lot of builders, is the challenge that they find with the current process that most cities that aren't, you know, offering online services like this, the challenge that they really run into is, you know, requirements can be different depending on a lot of different factors. So what they think they're bringing in is a complete application. You know, once they get to the front desk and speak with someone, you know, then they find out that there's additional requirements. So what we're really trying to do at this stage, again, is just really simplify the application requirements so that it's very clear what's required for them to submit a complete application. And in turn, this is going to create enormous efficiencies for the building department, since they're not spending all that time sort of babysitting people through the application process. And this is going to allow them to spend a lot more time actually issuing permits, having pre-consultation meetings, To use a baseball analogy, you know, pitching in the higher leverage innings. So at this stage, an applicant can create their application. And, you know, if I hadn't been speaking there, this would have taken me as a first-time user maybe 20, 30 seconds to do. At this stage, the applicant is cued on what the next steps in the process are for them. So they're going to have to give us a little bit more information on, you know, what specifically they're trying to build. So let's just say it's a new single-family dwelling. At this stage, what's going to happen is the system is going to automatically start to populate the requirements of their application. We can see the 4 buckets of information that I spoke about before up here. All the forms that an applicant's going to have to fill out are built into our system. One of the great things in Ontario is there's standard forms that are used by every municipality, so it's very straightforward for us to build this stuff in. So an applicant can come in and fill out all this information. All the data fields are validated, so, you know, a postal code has to be 6 digits. You know, the area of work cannot have letters in it. And this simplifies the process for them and also ensures that data that's coming into the building department is accurate. We're also able to use these forms to calculate building permit fees for the applicant. And you can see down here, in this particular example, a applicant is asked to pay a deposit fee. Now, I don't believe Georgian Bluffs requires deposit fees, but this is just sort of a proof of concept. Our system also allows for online payments. So this is great, I think, for any city, but especially with COVID, this is just one less touch point that, you know, a building official might, or a applicant, pardon me, might need to have with the building department. The applicant's also queued to submit the specific attachments that are required for them to have their permit approved. Once an applicant goes through this process, fills out all the right information, submits the right attachments, only then are they able to actually submit the application to the building department. At any time, an applicant and a building official can communicate via our messaging tool. This is probably the most beloved feature of the system by the building departments. One thing that many building departments, and, you know, Tim shared with me that this was, you know, somewhat of a challenge for them, is the multi-channel communication that exists with sort of an over-the-counter process where you have front counter visits, phone calls, emails. What we're really doing here is giving the building department the ability to keep everything related to that permit in one basic workspace. So not only the application documents and the records of the review process, but also the communication and financial data surrounding that permit. I just want to pause here and see if there's any questions from the members of council.
Does council have any questions? Council Bertha.
I think it's more to the loop than it is to the
Okay, we can ask move later if you wish.
I apologize. I'm not. I think there might have been a question from the room, and I can't really hear.
Luke, it was for, sorry, Peter, it was for Luke, our building inspector, but we'll ask him at a later time.
Okay. Great.
I can't see other members of council. Just comment if you have any questions or not.
Sorry, was there a question for me? This is Luke speaking. I just can't really hear you very well.
Luke, there was a question for you. We will revisit the question once Peter has concluded his presentation.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you. So, you know, once a permit's submitted, our software allows for the entire review process to be monitored and tracked by the building department. At any time, an applicant, and I'm scrolling down to the application window on our dashboard, which I showed you guys before. Let's say an applicant, let's say I'm a contractor in Georgian Bluffs and I've got 4 or 5 different projects on the go with the building department. At any time, I can track which stage my application's at in the process. So for example, I'd be able to see that a specific permit is in review, scrolling down here, or that a permit's been issued. And one thing our software does really well is we manage everything with email notifications as well. So just to kind of use a use case here, an applicant, once they submit their application, the building department will be notified that they have a new application. Once they've done their cursory review to make sure that everything's good and they can accept it, it will go into a submitted stage. So, it will go from a submitted stage to an in-review stage. So the applicant will be notified that the building department has started to work on their application. So one of the great things here is that it gives a lot of visibility to an applicant. I often compare it to sort of the FedEx package tracking system. And if you talk to a lot of builders, and maybe some of you have had some of this experience yourself, one of the common frustrations that they have is they submit these, very important applications, and they've got a lot riding on these projects. And they feel that they don't really have a sense of what's happening until, someone gets back to them with, a problem with their application or an issued permit, and they have no sense of what's actually going on in the process. So one of the things that we're really fulfilling here, which again saves some of the staff time since they don't need to field as many of these phone calls, is also, really solving a customer service challenge that most building departments who don't use this type of software have, which is just being transparent and visible to their clients. Okay, so with that said, I'm just going to move on to sort of the final stage of what I wanted to show everybody today. Once a building permit is, issued by the building department, the next stage of the process is for the builder to go build and then start to go through the inspection process. And we've built a really amazing inspection tool. In fact, Debbie Anderson, the CBO of Grey Highlands, and her team were really instrumental in helping us design this part of our system. Once an applicant has been issued their permit, the list of inspections that they're going to be required to complete before they can, gain an occupancy permit are laid out really simply in our software, and they're actually able to request those systems online automatically. So they can choose a day, they can choose an AM or PM time slot, they could leave a note for the inspector, something like Buzz 1234 at the front gate or something like that. And they can very easily make their building inspection requests online. And we've talked to a number of contractors, and they love this because they'll finish something up on site, and instead of having to, go visit the department or put a call in, it's a couple clicks on their phone. And I should probably walk back a little bit. Given that this is cloud-based software, this software works basically on any device, any web browser. So it doesn't matter if an applicant's, I'm sure there's some residents up there, sitting at home in the GTA, or they're a contractor on site with their phone. This is accessible 24/7 to anyone, anytime. Okay, so once an application is, a building permit, building inspection request is submitted, the building department gets a dispatching queue. This can be assigned to an inspector with a simple drag and drop feature. One of the great things here is it gives the building department a little bit more visibility. Where these building inspections are throughout the day are all popped up on a map. So it gives the building, officials a lot of control and visibility into the process and what's going on with the inspectors. When an inspector actually goes out on site, they are able to actually process the entire building inspection from a mobile device like a tablet or a phone on site. We also have some value-added features like a navigation tool. So let's say I had 5 or 6 inspections that day, I'd be able to hit this navigation button and it would open up an optimized route in Google Maps for me to go on. So this is, again, one of the other nice features we've been able to develop, which just helps ensure that, they're making best use of their time, best use of mileage, et cetera, et cetera. I did mention at the beginning of my presentation that the 2 areas that building departments, kind of lose most of their time or lose most of their efficiencies, perhaps I should say, is with the application intake process and the building inspection process. So we covered sort of the application intake process and sort of the efficiencies that we can gain around that. But moving to the building inspection process, when building inspectors can't take a piece of software like this in the field, what they typically do is take notes on site, and then they come back into the office to write all that stuff up and produce their reports. With Cloud Permit, the inspector can get this all done on site. So they can open an inspection. They can log all the deficiencies that they might find on site. For example, if they're doing an occupancy inspection and there's missing guardrails or handrails or steps to the back deck, for example, common deficiencies, they're able to very quickly add those. They're able to take an unlimited number of photos and videos and save them on our system. And then on site, they can actually issue the final inspection report. So this is a big sea change really for how building inspections work. And again, what our clients report back to us is they're saving an enormous amount of time and an enormous amount of cost because they're not using paper and they're able to get all this work done on site. So the great thing is they're able to keep the inspectors out in the field, churning out inspections. And ultimately, I think what this funnels down to is a city that becomes an easier place to do business for an applicant and a building department that's able to provide a higher standard of service and more accessible services to the public. So that's really what I wanted to show everybody today. There's lots of other aspects of our software, but I did want to keep things brief out of respect for your time. Are there any questions or anything that you guys would like me to drill down a little bit more on?
Thanks, Peter. Does council have any questions? Kathy and Sue, I cannot tell. I think there's no questions.
No questions from me, thanks.
None here either, Dwight. Thank you.
Peter, great presentation.
Thank you very much. Also, if there's any questions about our proposal, I mean, I showed you guys the software and a bit about the company. If you guys have any questions about our proposal, I'd be happy to field anything about that as well.
Thank you, Peter. I'm going to pose a question to the treasurer. You've heard the presentation, I think, before, it seems to me, and are you quite confident with the program and it would help treasury out too?
This isn't really a treasury program.
No, I know, I realize. I'm thinking about for the billing coming back through into the municipality.
So yes, the software does allow us to send the required reports to MPAC so that those buildings can be assessed. So yes.
If I could add one thing, just since the MPAC reporting came up, we've somewhat recently added a feature that actually automates the MPAC reporting process. So typically a building department does a month-end MPAC report, and MPAC gets 444 different month-end reports all at once. And this causes a lot of delays in the process. And ultimately, I think what this means is it takes longer to get property tax money. We worked with MPAC to create a cleaner solution. So in our system, as soon as an occupancy permit's issued, we automatically notify MPAC that the property is ready for assessment, thus creating sort of the shortest amount of time that, in terms of the effort that you can put in to get into the assessment queue to get that property tax money in as quickly as possible. Apologies for stepping back in there, but I did think it was an important point to address.
No, thank you, Peter. I'm going to put it up to council again. Does any council member have any questions of Peter this time? Seeing none, well, I'm going to read this recommendation. That the council authorize the purchase and implementation of the cloud permit, building permit software and Blue Beam land review software to be funded entirely by the building permit application. Someone to move to put on the floor, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Councilor Pringle. Is there any discussion on the recommendation? Go ahead, Councilor Barfoot.
I just have a quick question, and it's more for Luke, but perhaps you can answer it before we vote. How much is this going to increase the building department fees? I see that study's not going to be here until January, but there must be some idea at this point.
Luke, you want to answer that question?
We will be bringing forward something to council soon on that, that outlines our proposal for increasing fees through 2021.
So just to echo Luke's response there, they will be presenting amended fees shortly to council. And Cassie, you can correct me if I speak incorrectly here, but I believe that the increase in the building fees will cover the cost of this cloud permit software.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, so the way building fees should be structured is, you take the cost to provide that service and divide it by the number of permits you typically have in a year. And that's how much your building fees should be. If you look at like the $12,000
annually, the cost for the software. And you look at the fact that, let's say we issue 300 permits in a year, that's only $40 a permit. So I think you're asking if the increase is going to be significant, and in my opinion, the answer is no.
Okay, that's your question, Councilor Murphy.
Yes, thank you.
If there's no other discussion on the motion before us, all in favor of the motion? I believe it's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Okay, we'll move on to our agenda. We're down to no delegations. Correspondence, we have one from St. John Ambulance requesting support of $500. I guess I'm going to ask the treasurer, is this something we put on our donation account or put for budget, or is this something we should right now?
Like I said at the last request, I'm going to work on a policy for this, but for 2020, we still need to continue to look at it on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, thank you. What's council's wish? Council Bartlett?
I would like to wait until we get a report from Cassie, and I think we need to review it very carefully.
Okay. Other comments? See none? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't catch when Cassie said that report would be ready.
Not for a few months.
So on this one, we're looking at a request for this year, and I would think we still have funds available in the council donation account that we could use.
Yes,
It just seems to me that this is an important one that perhaps we should look at considering rather than wait until somewhere in the new year before that report comes back.
So I guess what I'm asking is, need a council member to put a motion on the floor to accept, give the donation of $500. And Council Coburn, I see you with your hand up. So it was moved by Council Coburn, second by Deputy Mayor Carlton. That will bring a notice of motion for the next meeting. If there's no discussion on the motion, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, moving right along, we're down to our next recommendation that the council, start again. That the committee of whole hereby approves amending parking bylaw 35-2003 to add enforcement to Lake Shore Road, and that a bylaw to enact said amendment be presented at October 21st, 2020 council meeting. Is that correct, Madam Clerk, or is that who's asking? Oh, sorry.
October 21st is the next council meeting.
Okay, thank you. Someone to move it on the floor, please. Moved by Councilor Thompson. Second by Councilor Murphy. Any discussion on the motion before us? Hey, Luke, you want to talk to this, or necessary?
Rick, what do you need for me on this report?
I'll speak to it since we're having connection issues with Luke.
Thank you.
I think it's pretty straightforward. We've gotten quite a few complaints from residents on Lake Road about people parking on that road. It is just not wide enough to facilitate parking, as well as make sure there's access for emergency vehicles. So we would like to add that to the prohibited parking bylaw, put signage up indicating that there's no parking on that road, and should people not listen, we will begin towing vehicles that park on that road.
Thank you, Cassie. Any more discussion on the motion before us? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? It's carried.
Mr. Mayor, can I just interrupt for 1 second?
I have asked our IT coordinator to take a look at the sound to see if there's anything we can do on our end to improve it for our virtual attendees. So if you don't mind, could we move for a 5-minute recess while we look at it?
Certainly.
Hold on one second. I'm just gonna turn on the light.
Okay. We're down to our next recommendation. The staff are hereby directed to apply a credit of $205.65 to the account of 427 Bounty Beach Road as per policy ENV 00816, water billing relief. Summons the booth put on the floor, please. Moved by Councilor Pringle, second by Deputy Mayor Carlton. Brian, do you want to speak to this report? Oh, sorry, Tyler, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Burley. Yeah, no, this is an unfortunate situation. 2 toilets began leaking. So of course they caught it late after the billing. We have a policy in place for one-time contingency to help the homeowners out in this situation. So that's what this is. It's a one-time water billing relief of $205.
Okay, thank you, Tyler. Does council have any questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? It's carried. Thank you. Moving on. That Prescott Road emergency repairs in the amount of $19,442.28 plus HST be approved, and that the repairs be funded from Township Road Reserves. Someone to move to put on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Coburn. Tyler, you want to speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Burley. This is an item that we brought up in September's meeting, September 2nd, I believe. So what staff did is notified erosion conditions from a storm that came rolling through. And the reason why we brought it to council's attention is we didn't think we'd be able to follow the purchasing procedure and get the e-water works done by the end of September. So what you see before you is the end result of the construction costs, as well as the timeline as well. So we came in a lot lower under budget. We did utilize some of the town's roads operations staff to help save some money and time as well. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or comments council may have.
Thank you, Tyler. Does council have any questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? It's carried. Moving on, we're down to our next recommendation that staff are hereby directed to prepare a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the land transfer document for 1 foot reserve on Francis Drive. Someone to move to put on the floor, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Councillor Barfoot. Tyler, you want to speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor Burley. This is some great news. This is something we've been waiting for. So as sure council and everybody here knows, we have the Francis Lake assumption going on this year. So we actually have a contract out to do the tree clearing and grubbing work, and this 1 foot reserve is required to connect Big Rock Road, or if you will, the northern portion of Francis Drive Road, to the southern portion of concession 14. This is, again, working with Thompson and Miller, the lawyers, to help enable this land transfer, and it's the next step in the right direction here. So again, any questions or comments council may have, please don't hesitate to ask.
Thanks, Tyler. It's really nice to see this coming forth. Does council have any questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? It is carried. Moving on, our next recommendation is that quote received from Canadian Woodland Contractors in the amount of $13,500 plus HST to complete grubbing on Francis Drive be approved, and that the project be funded from the roads reserve. Someone to move it on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Coburn, second by Deputy Mayor Carlton. Is there, Tyler, you want to speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Burley. As we just discussed with our last report, with this 1 foot reserve, it really did delay the Francis Lake construction or the assumption process substantially this year, to the point where we're now getting the tree clearing and the grubbing, although it was designated to be done by our municipal staff, will be done quicker and more efficiently by the contractor with the same equipment on site. I've asked the contractor to produce a quote to remove and dispose of the stumps. I find this to be a very reasonable price, and it'll get us back into the timeline of finishing this road construction for the assumption of Francis Drive. Again, I'd be happy to answer any questions or comments this council may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Without pulling up the report in front of me, Tyler, maybe you'd ask the question, the stumps that are removed, is it the responsibility of the contractor to get rid of at their expense?
Thank you, Mayor Burley. No, this was a strictly tree clearing and grubbing contract. And again, I bring your, try and take you back to September last year, where the majority of this work was supposed to be done in-house by the municipal staff. In January, we brought the road supervisor and foreman out to site to do the tree removals, and we found it to be unsafe. There's some very large trees, power lines, cottages. It's a rabbit hole of a road, and so then we budgeted this year to do the tree clearing only. And then with that, the timing of the tree clearing got pushed back to that 1 foot reserve. Hopefully I'm not convoluting your question, but that's kind of the history behind this. It really was supposed to be done in-house, but the timing this year is why I support this additional cost.
No, I understand that, but my question was the stumps. Is that the responsibility of the contractor to remove on site, and is there an expense to it?
So original tree clearing tender, there was no stump removal or disposal. What I've asked for, and that's the $13,500, is for the removal and disposal. That's the cost I'm asking for council's approval today. So again, the original tree clearing tender did not include the stump removal or disposal, but this additional cost, contemplated change order, if you will, does. This will complete the job.
Okay, that answers my question. Does council have any questions? I had another question myself and I completely lost it. Well, if I think of it, I'll ask you later, Tyler. I completely forgot what it was. Oh, no, I remember now. We had a discussion from a ratepayer down there about a big rock. Are we able to maybe get that removed, pushed off the side of the road with this contractor, or how are we gonna handle that?
Thank you, Mayor Burley. No, we're definitely well aware of this rock. It's got a lot of heritage value there, family photos through generations, so it's something we do take seriously, especially when we're upgrading small communities such as this. We're well aware of it, but I'm hesitant to make any commitment at this time, as in giving them 100% surety, as I know our equipment can't do it in-house, and I'm waiting for the tree clearing contractor to see what size of machinery he's capable of using as well. So I just don't want to make 100% promises, because this is a significant rock that, again, you gotta have the right machine on site to do the job. So we're well aware of it. We're gonna do our absolute best to do it, but it's just at no cost right now. It is at about an 80% value is given.
Okay, I'll accept that for now. Yep. Does council have any questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion forward? It's carried. Moving on with our agenda. Whereas official plan amendment number 9 by Maureen and Kenneth McDonald is complete and demonstrates consistency with the provincial statement 2020, the County of Grey official plan, recolored gray, and the Township of Georgian Bus official plan, and whereas zoning bylaw amendment application Z0620 is consistent with the provincial policy statement 2020, the County of Grey official plan, recolored gray, Township of Georgian Bus official plan, and the intent of the Township of Georgian Bus zoning bylaw 2020. Now therefore, official plan amendment number 9 by Maureen and Kenneth McDonald and zoning bylaw amendment application Z0620 are hereby approved. Someone to move to put on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Barfoot, second by Councillor Coburn. Jen, do you want to speak to this, please?
Yes. So this is a recommendation report. These applications appeared before Council and Committee of Adjustment back in July, so July 14th and 15th. So this involves the property that is next door to the Township office. It's Ken and Maureen McDonald, and this is the application to sever off 2 residential lots. In order to do that, they needed to amend the Township official plan from future development to residential, and then an associated zoning amendment from plan development to residential. So you can see the area on the diagram that's in the planning report. So it's there's the hash marks delineating the area that would be redesignated and rezoned. So they're only applying for a portion of the property because the back portion of the property is hazard And there is a section of future development, plan development at the back there, but it doesn't serve any useful purpose for development, so there's no point in redesignating it. So the the application also looks for relief to Table 9.4, which is the residential provisions that that speak to lot frontage as well as area. So for the retained parcel, they would like to reduce the minimum lot frontage from 36 meters to 22, as well as reduce the minimum required lot area from, it's about 4,000 square meters to 39. So really it's just under an acre, which is reasonable. So, excuse me, to make my screen bigger here. So we do know that on July 14th, the Committee of Adjustment granted conditional approval for the creation of the 2 new residential lots. And as conditions in the severance approval, the committee required that OPA 9 be approved and that a zoning bylaw amendment be enforced in effect. So there were no appeals received to the approval of those 2 applications. So I did provide a full review of the applicable policies presented in that July 15th report. And I would be happy to answer any policy questions that you might have right now at the end of the presentation of this report. So in looking at the logistics for development on the property, my recommendation is that the amending bylaw recognize the drainage feature in the text of the bylaw. I do have a draft bylaw available that that I'll be bringing to council for consideration next week, and it is going to delineate the drainage feature. So there's like a 1.5 meter wide drainage ditch between the property that's closest to the township property, and that bylaw is just going to make sure that the property owner maintains that ditch and doesn't alter it, so they don't end up flooding out the township property. Now drainage is a concern that we have for all development, and in approving these applications, we want to make sure that we've addressed drainage appropriately. Further, the applicant's engineer did provide grading and drainage plans, so that plan is going to be incorporated into the zoning bylaw as a Schedule B, so that any property owner who purchases the property is aware that there is a drainage requirement. If council's not satisfied with having it in the zoning, there's always the option to require the owner enter into a site plan agreement to be registered on the title to the lands to address that drainage feature. So that's up to council if you would rather pursue that avenue than including it in the zoning bylaw. So in terms of the consultation for this, for the official plan amendment application as well as the zoning, we did have a virtual public meeting to consider the application. It was broadcast online on July 15th via Microsoft Teams and on YouTube. So the meeting was attended by Planner Ron Davidson, who spoke in support of the proposal, and we didn't receive any written comments and no one made any oral submissions during the virtual public meeting. And since that time, we have not received any additional comments or concerns or had any concerns identified. So all of the comments that were submitted for these applications are contained in the initial planning report, PL 2020-34. So it's just in conclusion here, the applications demonstrate consistency with provincial policy, county plan, the Township of Georgian Bluffs official plan, and my recommendation is the official plan amendment number 9 be adopted, and that application Z0318 be approved. And should council support that, then I would be able to bring a bylaw forward next week, 2 bylaws to approve those 2 applications, and then forward that those documents onto the county for approval. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee might have.
Thank you, Jen. Does council have any questions? Seeing none? All in favor of the motion before us? It's approved. Thank you. So moving on, we're down to our next recommendation. Whereas it has been demonstrated that zoning bylaw amendment application Z0218 is consistent. We're down to our next page. That's whereas it has been demonstrated that 2020, the County of Gray official plan and the Township of George and Bluffs official plan. Now therefore application Z0218 for land subscribed as part lot 40, concession 19 capital for Sarah Ann Marie Samala. Be hereby approved. Someone to move the motion on the floor, please. Moved by Councilor Colbert, second by Councilor Thompson. Jen?
Sure. So this proposal is to create 3 residential lots within the Kemble settlement area. It's a resubmission of 3 severance applications, which were approved in 2015 but lapsed as the conditions of severance were not met. So the report does show the proposed lot dimensions. So there is a zoning amendment application to rezone the property from planned development to general residential, so an R1. And there's also a request for exceptions, and that would permit a semi-detached dwelling, a duplex dwelling house, and a secondary suite as additional permitted uses in the R1 zone. Right now, the R1 zone allows you to have a single detached dwelling. So in reviewing the policies, I know this was presented to council and committee previously. We did have an update to the policy statement for 2020. And so under the County of Gray official plan, this property is agricultural and secondary settlement area, and residential uses are permitted. The Township of George and Bluffs official plan locates the land proposed for the severances within the tertiary settlement area of Kemble, and residential uses are permitted. So the larger parcel is actually, the retained parcel is in the agricultural designation in the county plan. And the county plan does permit land to be severed from, to separate the agricultural from the land within the settlement area, provided that the lands in that ag designation remain intact. So there's no proposed changes or severance or reduction in lot size for the lands that have been designated agricultural. So when we review policy in a rural area, we are aware that the provincial policy statement identifies individual on-site sewage and individual on-site water services as the least preferred servicing option. They are permitted, provided that site conditions are suitable for the long-term provision of such services with no negative impacts. We all know that Kemble doesn't have municipal services, and we have had this application considered the March 18th, 2015 council meeting, and again on February 19th, 2020, or excuse me, that's an error there. So concerns were raised about the availability of water for wells and drainage, and in response to the concerns expressed by council and residents, the applicant did submit a hydrogeological review to support up to 2 residential units per lot, as well as an engineered site grading plan. The applicant's professional engineers provided information on drainage and well water in the Kemble area. So they attended the meeting and addressed concerns. And then after that, they also provided letters to the township to support their studies and just clarify information as requested through the public meeting process. And I did attach the letters to the report for council's consideration. So the comments that we received from Gray Sauble Conservation Authority do confirm that the subject property does not contain any natural hazards and no natural heritage features, as directed in the PPS. So the Conservation Authority has provided us with comments stating that the proposal will alter drainage patterns across the developed area. A detailed grading plan was prepared by GM Blue Plan Engineering, demonstrating proposed grades and drainage patterns. Drainage is largely proposed to be directed to the Kemble Rock Road ditch, and they're generally satisfied with that proposed approach. So they recommend site-specific development of the lots demonstrate how they conform to the grading and drainage plan. And they're recommending that be implemented through development agreements with the township. So that is site plan agreements that are registered on title. And then so with the information submitted with the application, so what they have reviewed, they're of the opinion that the applications are consistent with section 2.2 of the provincial policy statement. So as a condition in the severances, the proposed severances, staff have included the requirement for a site plan agreement as a condition of severance. So as the property is zoned plan development, and the application is to rezone to general residential, to have and also to permit semi-detached dwelling, duplex dwelling house, and secondary suites. That isn't technically out of character with the existing neighborhood. There's a number of dwellings in the area, and residential uses along there. 3 lots wouldn't be out of character with the neighborhood. There is a barn on the property that will be removed as part of this approval process. So one thing that is important about this application is that the county official plan and the provincial policy statement, they both support the provision of a variety of housing types, and that is to meet needs of residents. And it includes intensification that results in new rental accommodation and creates affordable housing options. That's one of that's important to recognize, is that increasing the type of housing also increases the options for affordable housing units for people. They can afford the home that they live in, whether it's owning or renting. So secondary suites are not currently permitted, as we know, as of right in the residential zones because of our the Georgian Bluffs zoning official plan. So we need to have that permission. They need to go through the zoning amendment. So current planning policies support affordable housing and additional units, and we will update our official plan to reflect that. So as you see in the report, we did circulate the applications, and we received comments that I have included comments that were not previously presented to council at the public meeting. So the Grey Sauble Conservation Authority provided comments after, and they note no objection to the applications. They do recommend site-specific development of the proposed lots, demonstrate how they conform with grading and drainage through the plan that's provided by GM Blue Plan, and they recommend that that be implemented through development agreements with the township. So that's the registered site plan agreements. They wish to be notified of any decision with respect to these applications. So I also included in here the previous Director of Operations, CAO, supported the application, did a review on the engineering, discussed the proposal with the applicant's engineer, and supported the application. And then our current Director of Operations provided recent comments and attended the site and acknowledges that there will be some work required by the township to fix the ditching and to install some culverts to alleviate some of the drainage problems in the area. So this will ensure a proper drain for many years and also ensure the water does not contribute to the ongoing issue located in the main intersection of Kembo during spring thaw. As well, one of the property owners expressed some concern about drainage on their property, so the discharge of the water onto their property. So the Director of Operations did meet with the property owner, Mr. Doug Sutherland, to review the issue, and it was noted at the on-site meeting that drainage location would not cause any additional issues. So as you know from the previously from the meetings that have been held, we did notify all property owners within 120 meters, We did receive written comments from Stephen Van Eck, Ross and Karen Thwaite, and Willie Waterton. And then at the Committee of Adjustment hearing on February 18th, oral submissions were made by Mr. Don Edwards, Mr. Harold Krause, Mr. Terry Nickel, Ms. Pam Dignard, and Ms. Leanne Sutherland. And then at the public meeting in February, no one spoke in opposition to or in support of the applications. So in the recommendation for this, positive comments have been received from the Conservation Authority. The Township's Director of Operations conducted a site visit and acknowledges works that the Township needs to do to improve the drainage in the area and the Township's issues that are impacting the applicant's land. So staff support the Conservation Authority's recommendation for a development agreement to implement grading and drainage requirements. And it's recommended as a condition of severance, the Committee of Adjustment require that a site plan agreement be registered on title to the lands. So in conclusion, it's been demonstrated that the zoning amendment, bylaw amendment application is consistent with the applicable policies, and the recommendation is that the application Z0218 for Sarianne Maria Samela be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to note that the applicant, Gary Taylor, is present this evening and is on the line should council wish to have him make any comments.
Okay. Thank you, Brittany. I'll open the floor up now. Does council have any questions? See none. Mr. Taylor, do you care to add anything?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be present in the meeting. We look forward to going forward with plans to create some very, very attractive housing in the area and to complement the existing housing in the hamlet of Campbell. I know there's been some concern about it. My hope is that once they see the results of the housing, that the local residents will be very pleased with the outcome of it all. I know it's always a concern when you don't see what is being proposed. So, I look forward to working with Georgian Bluffs on and preparing and executing an excellent development.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. So if council's no questions or discussions on the motion before us, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? I believe it's carried. Okay, moving off our agenda, we're down to public question period. Madam Clerk, do we have any responses from the public?
No, we did not.
Thank you. We're down to unfinished business. I believe, Tyler, you have two. Which one do you want to do first? Indian Acres? Indian Road? Go ahead. For sure.
Thank you, Mayor Burley. Yes, I just wanted to update council on the 2020 bridge rehabilitation work on 88 Acres Road. Again, we're getting later into the season as everything's delayed this year, but the contractors I should say, this work was originally intended to be a one-lane operation through traffic for just a 2 or 3 day complete shutdown. The contractor has come forward and requested, after being on site and seeing how narrow the structure is, to close the road for a 3-week period. Staff has reached out to bus routes and neighboring areas there and has approved that request. Again, the intent here is to get the work done as quickly as possible without the sub-freezing temperatures in regards to concrete work. So again, that's more of an update, but I'd be happy to answer any questions or comments council may have.
Thank you. Does council have any questions on Tyler's update? See none? Go ahead, Tyler, for your next item. Ingalls Falls Road reconstruction.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Burley. So this project was anticipated to be totally complete by October 31st. Moorfield Construction has reached out to us and requested an extension of less than 1 month. So they're asking that the substantial performance dates be pushed back to November 11th and the final completion date be pushed back to November 27th. They list COVID-19 as an obvious. There has been a number of change orders that have been added to this job as well. Number one being the culvert installation on the north end, which was proposed 2019 work, but we got it included into this one after permits and everything was were navigated and approved as well. And for the last contemplated change order was somewhat of a health and safety concern that staff and GM Blue Line have decided to install approximately 200 meters of the galvanized fencing on top of the retaining wall to the southern extent. And again, there's no reason for any member of the public to be over there, but with a substantial drop of 6, 7, 8 meters, and at a reasonable cost, especially including our grant criteria, we've decided to move forward with that as well to ensure public safety. So again, any questions or comments are welcome.
Thank you, Tyler. Did take the opportunity to look at the road, and it is an amazing road, and it's great to see it done. Does council have any questions on Tyler's update? See none? If you, all council members, you get an opportunity, go and look at it. It's quite an amazing job. So we'll move on to our agenda. We're down then to new business, and I believe Councilor Bartlett, you had an item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the past, we've always met new employees. Usually they would come to the council chambers and be introduced to council. Well, that's a little difficult now, so since we can go virtual, I think it would be nice if staff could arrange to at least introduce the new employees to council and council to new employees. For example, I know there are 3 new people in the office itself. There's 3 new people in operations, I believe, 2 in roads and 1 at the arena. And then we have our seasonal operators. I'm not in the office that much, so I don't get to meet. I usually only come here if I've got on a mission. But I walk in and I see 3 new faces. I don't know who they are. This is a small municipality. I think it would be nice if we could at least know who these people are. We have 2 new people on council. I'm not sure. Have you met all the new employees? Has Councillor Coburn met all the new employees? I don't know if Councillor Thompson and the Deputy Mayor have. I know I haven't. I just think it would be a courtesy. We are a small municipality. I'd like to be friendly to staff. So could we do it virtually?
I'm going to turn that over to our interim CEO.
Yes, we can definitely do that going forward. But to be honest, I don't know who's met who in the past. So I think that's something we do going forward, or else, you know, we could be looking at bringing every single employee to council virtually to make sure that council's met everybody. So my recommendation would be to do that going forward.
Thank you. If there's no other new business, we're down to the closed session. So I have a recommendation here that the council, the committee of the whole go in closed session at 5:25 p.m. with the interim CEO, chief building official, which is not here, and acting clerk remain in the room to discuss one potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality of local boards, current and pending township litigation matters. Someone's moved to put on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Coburn, second by Councillor Pringle. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to formally acknowledge that this motion will be amended to remove the chief building official, therefore only include the interim CAO and myself.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. If there's no other discussion on the motion before us, all in favor of the motion? is carried. We'll now take 5 minutes.
Forgot my last.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, we're now live. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We went in camera, only to discuss we went in camera for, nothing more. But now we're in open session. We have no other business here today. I see our next meeting is Friday, 11 o'clock, Chalet Arena. Training session for council. Look forward to see everybody there. So I need one more motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilor Thompson, second by Councilor Coburn. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? It's carried. We're now adjourned. Thanks, everybody.